So my assumption is I will suffer. Hello and welcome to my camper van, where I just sat down to film some thoughts because we are currently less than 1 week away from my attempt to hike from Land's End to Groats, and there are some thoughts that I wanted to get out before I start the adventure, so that's what I'm gonna do now. So welcome to 10 assumptions I have about hiking from Land's End to Groats. Number 1, physical fitness. So my assumption is I will suffer. But my assumption also is that it will get better. Even though I'm currently reasonably fit, I think an adventure like that just will be physically extremely exhausting. Now that said, my assumption number 2 is that this is going to be at least as physically challenging as it's gonna be mentally challenging. So I take a lot of things very personally, and backtracking, getting lost, and not finding my path on past hikes have been quite unpleasant experiences, shall we say. Then of course there's sort of boredom of doing the same thing over and over again every day, feeling homesick, feeling a bit lonely, questioning why you're doing this to yourself, getting rained on, and all of these things. So my assumption is that it's gonna be tough physically, yes, but it's gonna be at least as tough mentally as well. Number 3, we're staying with the physical issues. My third assumption is that I will get a minor injury. So blisters for certain, but my assumption is that on top of that, I will have a minor injury. That's not going to be a deal breaker, but it's gonna be sucky, regardless. Number 4, I will cry. That is almost certain, I think, as I'm a very emotional person. So at some point during the adventure, and I think more often than once, I will shed a tear or two. Number 5, I will swap out gear items along the way. So most of my gear items are not new and I'm quite familiar with them from past hikes. There are only a few items that are brand new for this hike. However, none of my hikes were that long, so I just assume that I'm gonna swap out some things along the way, be it for temperature because it warms up during the warmer months, or in Scotland with the midges and all, or just generally because things break or wear out or are not practical on longer hikes as they were on shorter hikes. Assumption is a few gear items will be swapped out along the way. Number 6, I will walk considerably more because I will get lost so often. Listen, I'm not terrible with navigation, okay? I'm not terrible, but sometimes errors occur, so my assumption is more walking is gonna be done because I get lost. Number 7 is that Cornwall and the Pennine Way are gonna be the hardest section of the entire thing. I don't know why Cornwall, it's because of all the up and downs right in the beginning that I think it's gonna be hard, and because once the buzz of starting is wearing off, it's probably mentally gonna be tough as well. And then Pennine Way, I kind of build up in my head to be this really big deal by now. But yeah, just generally the Pennine Way, I have built up in my head quite a bit, and I assume this is gonna be the hardest section of the whole thing. Number 8 is that the time frame I set for the adventure is gonna be completely wrong. I'm in no particular rush, but I planned the first couple of weeks just to see what the rest of the adventure is going to be like. So I have a rough plan of the first couple to 3 weeks, what's going to happen when, roughly, and then reevaluate from there and sort of map out the rest. And I think this is going to throw my time window that I gave myself for the adventure right out of the window. Whether it's going to be shorter or longer than I currently have in my head, who knows? But I think it's not going to be what I think it will be right now. Assumption number 9 is that I'm going to attempt as much as I possibly can of the John O'Groats trail, but that I will eventually have to walk the A9. It's a difficult trail from what I read, and I hear that many people sort of attempt it and see how far they get, and then at some point, if it's getting a bit too sketchy, they just make their way up to the A9, and I'm gonna be exactly the same. I'm gonna attempt it, but I assume I'm just gonna walk the A9 at some point or another. Number 10, assumption number 10 is the midges will be horrible. So I have heard a lot of stories about the midges and I try to prepare as best I can. I have never been to Scotland before. I have never been to Scotland in midge season before, so I don't know how horrible exactly they're gonna be, but my assumption is the midges aren't gonna be nice to me. And here is assumption 11 for you as a bonus. Because I couldn't cut it down to 10, here's bonus assumption 11, and that simply is that I will have to do some of it scared. I prepared as best as I can, and I'm really, really looking forward to this. I'm excited. The nerves are definitely there, but I really, really want to get going. But I just assume I will have to do some of it scared. And there you have it. Those were 11 assumptions I have about hiking from Land's End to John O'Groats that I really wanted to get out before I actually do it, so that this is just what it's in my head right now without having been there doing the real thing. And I'm already looking forward to comparing it to the real thing. So if I'm gonna watch this back after I did the attempt, however far I get, I think it's gonna be so cool to compare what I thought beforehand with what it's like in the real world. So time to get going, or at least almost time to get going, and I'll leave you with my 10-11 assumptions I have about hiking from Land's End to John O'Groats. Okay, thanks for watching, see you soon, bye!